خلق من ماء دافق يخرج من بين الصلب والترائب إنه على رجعه لقادر يوم تبلى السرائر فما له من قوة ولا ناصر والسماء ذات الرجع والأرض ذات الصدع إنه لقول فصل وما هو بالهزل إنهم يكيدون كيدا وأكيد كيدا فمهل الكافرين أمهلهم رويدا.
For the past few years, Telenor Research has projected some tech trends and saw them turning into reality the world over. Now, to guide us through tech trends that stand to reshape how we consume, how we connect, and even how we perceive the world around us in 2021, I would like to virtually welcome Bjørn Taale Sandberg, Head of Research, Telenor Group. Over to you, Bjørn.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to this event. I am sorry I can't be there in person like last year, but of course there are good reasons for that. What I want to do is to take you through 5 important trends that we have identified for 2021 and beyond. We have worked on developing these trends since about August last year, when we put together a team of scientists from diverse areas, let them scan broadly to see what trends would impact us. We decided to stick with only 5 this time. There are lots of things that I do not talk about that are important, such as the evolving 5G landscape worldwide. But that is an underlying driver as well. So the trends for 2021 are very much impacted by or driven by the ongoing pandemic and what we believe permanent changes once the pandemic is over, which hopefully will be sometime this year. And the ongoing very rapid acceleration of digitization of society that is happening right now. So those are the backdrops for the trends. And then I'll go straight on and start talking about the first one. And this one we called Technology Supplements Touch to Tackle Mental Health Maladies. And this is really about a growing problem in society all over the world, namely loneliness. All societies have experienced a growth in loneliness over the last years, the last decade. And during the pandemic, this has accelerated. We have seen or have already seen examples of technologies that aim at alleviating loneliness. One example is the Taale robotic seal, which you can see in the upper left-hand corner of this slide. This has been developed for the elderly, basically, and it responds to touch. It can follow your face, and it can, to some extent, communicate with you. And this has been a success in elderly care homes, for instance. Another more high-tech example is Sophia, the Android you can see in the middle here, which has been developed in Hong Kong. This is now ready for mass market production, actually. So more of that. What we believe will be a trend going forward is that even with a large percentage of people suffering from loneliness and mental health problems before the pandemic, we've seen an acceleration, as I mentioned, during the pandemic. In Norway, as an example, we have an increase of almost 10% of people who report problems with loneliness. In the UK, during the pandemic, 41% of 20 to 24-year-olds, for instance, say that they are loneliness, they experience loneliness. In Norway, the is about 30 now. So this is a worldwide problem. And we believe that since this is a growing issue, technology will respond, companies will respond, and we will see the development of new tech to meet this, to mitigate this. One example of technology we think will come is augmented reality or virtual reality communication solutions, which communication than just flat video or just voice we have today. You might, with virtual reality goggles on, see a full 3D image of the person you're talking to. We can participate in meetings virtually, but for the others in the meeting room, look as though we are present in a chair around the table. So that's one development that is coming now, and it's being enabled by, made possible by 5G. Of course, these communication services will require unprecedented bandwidth, unprecedented communication capacity, and that will only be possible with 5G and fiber. Another development we expect to see is more intelligent, more advanced chatbots, online robots, if you want, that are specifically trained to dialogues with people who suffer from loneliness or even other mental problems. There is evidence from the past that this can work, going very far into the past. When I was a young man and started programming, there was a system called ELIZA, which was a very simple simulation of a psychiatrist. But still, people reported that they sometimes preferred to talk to ELIZA rather than a person, because ELIZA was perceived as non-judgmental. So since then, we have more advanced chatbots, and we believe with the increasing power of artificial intelligence, this will evolve further in the future and help us alleviate the problem that loneliness brings with it. We don't think that technology will ever replace humans in this regard, not at all, but it might help us reduce the size of the problem. Okay, let me move on to trend number 2. And this was called a digital spring for green technology. During the pandemic, governments, societies all over the world have focused their energies on tackling the disease, tackling the enormous disaster that has befallen us. And ironically, because of the isolation, because of the fact that a lot of people working in companies, in cities, etc., have been sent home and are working from home, the amount of commuting we are doing, the amount of driving we're doing, the amount of traveling we're doing has reduced dramatically during the pandemic. And we are starting to learn to use digital tools for conducting meetings and seminars like this one. And some of that will stick after the pandemic. So ironically, we are reducing our impact on the climate during the pandemic. Once the pandemic goes away, and the governments are going to refocus on rebuilding their economy, we believe that a lot of that focus is going to go towards green technology, green solutions, because climate change is the underlying big problem that we as the coming humanity have to tackle. The European Union, for instance, are investing billions of euros on startups, on new technology to combat climate change. Let me give you a couple of examples of what we believe. Artificial intelligence will be used to build smart energy solutions. We believe it will be used to monitor traffic in cities, help us plan cities better. We know for a fact that the AI will be used by, for instance, telecom operators to reduce their power consumption. In the Telenor group, in several of the business units in the Telenor group, we have, for instance, implemented what we call smart radio solutions, where AI is used to switch off radios in cell towers when they are not needed because the demand for data is low. And this helps us save electricity and save diesel for sites where that's the only way of powering the site. Another example is the use of drones to monitor the natural environment. And one example of that is Imperial College in the UK. They have developed drones and small sensors that can actually be ejected from or shot from a drone into trees and monitor the health of the trees, which of course tell you a lot about the health of the forest, the health of the environment. Those are examples. Another fun example, or good example, is that we believe we will see more and more use of technology in farming. Farming is one of the big contributors to climate change worldwide today. And that is because of the use of energy in farming, and it's because farm animals, they contribute a lot to climate gases and climate change. And we believe that technology will help us evolve more sustainable farming, more efficient farming, farming that yields more, uses less pesticides, uses less fertilizer, uses less water to produce the same and more. One example of that is the robot you see on the right here, called Torvald. This robot so far can be used to detect whether, for instance, strawberry plants have been attacked by fungi. And if a plant has been attacked, it can use ultraviolet light to kill the fungi, which reduces the need for fungicides, which are expensive and, of course, environmentally risky. So this is one example of a robot that exists today, and this will evolve and help us going forward as well. So we believe technology will help us combat climate change, and it will help us in many areas of society. Trend number 3. We call this one password panic. And this image is perhaps recognizable by many of us. We have a lot of services we use now, and we have passwords for all of them. And remembering all those passwords can be a hassle. As society continues to be digitalized, as more and more services move online, this is just going to increase. It'll be difficult to remember them, unless, of course, we choose to use the same password for all services, or choose a very simple to remember password. If we do that, we expose ourselves to hacking. An easy password is easy to remember, but it's also easy for somebody to guess. If you use the same password for all your services, if it is one service is cracked and passwords are leaked, then somebody can access everything because you reused your password. So we are always encouraged, and it's good advice, to select difficult to remember passwords and use different passwords for all services. This growing use of digital services, this challenge that we have with remembering all these passwords, and the need to stay secure online when we, for instance, use digital services remotely for work, or we use online banking or e-commerce, which is growing in popularity. We have to find better ways of doing this. And we believe that one of the trends going forward will be business really responding to the challenge of password panic. We believe that businesses need to focus strongly on cybersecurity. An important part of cybersecurity is protecting individual user accounts in a business. So we believe that businesses will invest in more user-friendly authentication solutions, such as biometric solutions, apps that help you remember and keep passwords secure, authentication apps to be used together with, for instance, your face to log on to your computer system. And this will accelerate going forward. For businesses, I've been asked during these presentations on trends, I've been asked, what should businesses do? Can you give us any advice on how to approach this problem? And I have two pieces of advice. And one is to the business itself. Really, you need to build what is called a defensible IT architecture. And you can get some advice on how to do that if you go to Telenor.com's website, Telenor.com, and look for cybersecurity. We have several articles on how to do that. And indeed, cybersecurity is one of the major focus areas of the Telenor Group, and we help other companies with this in several of our markets. Piece of advice is more for all of us. What I do in order to remember all my passwords is, I don't remember the passwords themselves. I remember a simple 2 or 3 letter code for each service, and then I have a system in my head to translate that into a password. Another thing you can do as an individual is to actually write down passwords on a piece of paper and keep that piece of paper in a safe place. And the reason I say this is because a piece of paper cannot be hacked. So you're not at risk of hacking, as long as you remember where you put that piece of paper, obviously. Okay, let's move on. Trend number 4, society as a service. When the pandemic hit us, thousands and millions across the world of workers, employees who had office jobs, spent most of their days working on computers anyway, were sent home and told to work remotely from their homes, from cafes perhaps, from somewhere else than the office. We saw a 10-fold increase in the number of calls on Microsoft Teams. We saw a 22-fold increase in the number of minutes that were spent on Microsoft Teams. In Telenor, we learned in a few days how to operate our networks and run our businesses from our homes without disruption to the service. All of this happened suddenly, and I was actually amazed to see that everybody in the world at large and us as a company were able to respond so quickly to this. So, what we think is going to happen once the pandemic goes away again is that the new habits that we have acquired during the pandemic, namely working from anywhere, working from home, they will stay to a large extent. It has meant disruption. It has meant not seeing and meeting your colleagues on a daily basis, but it has also meant increased flexibility for a lot of people. Increased flexibility in how they plan and organize their lives. It's made it possible, for instance, to not commute, save time commuting. It's made it possible to, if you're responsible for small children, take them to daycare before your day becomes, then go straight back to your home and continue your day. It's easy to organize your life. So a lot of office workers will want to keep this flexibility after the pandemic is over. And they will expect companies and society to make this possible by offering digital tools and connectivity to allow them to work remotely. We believe that since a lot of these employees, a lot of these workers are highly competent, very attractive, and companies indeed compete for them, companies will accommodate this. And they will invest in learning new ways of working and in the digital tools and connectivity that's needed to make this a reality. They will also realize that in order to continue to work as we do now, with some remote, some not remote, we will need to be very good at security, cybersecurity, digital hygiene. And this means training, it means tools like we just talked about. It means password discipline as one thing. Some companies have actually announced that they will allow employees to work remotely forever if they so want, or in a hybrid model where they spend some time in the office and some time remotely during the week. And the reason that some companies say, well, we want a hybrid model is because we know from experience, from research, that creativity is best served if we actually meet physically. We have chance meetings, we have these serendipitous conversations around the tea kettle or over the water cooler, which then generates ideas and so forth. So Telenor expects that post the pandemic, we will allow people to work flexibly, but we also expect that they will want to spend some days in the office during the week. So that's society as a service. Society will have to be geared to this new normal way of working. Then we come to the last trend for 2021 that we have identified and are highlighting. And that is the increasing educational gap we have around the world. Before the pandemic hit us, we saw for many years a continuous decline in the number of children that were out of school, that did not receive education. So you can see from this figure, on a global scale, it went down from something like 26% to 17% from 2000 to 2018. Unfortunately, one of the consequences of the pandemics is that this is now changing. We have seen major disruption, and one of the disruptions has been that up to 1.6 billion had their school days affected by this. They've been sent home, and only a small fraction of these have access to tools and connectivity to continue their education when not physically present in school. And this has hit children in lower income countries much harder than children in higher income countries. Figures from the World Economic Forum actually shows that in high income countries, 86 or 87% of children have access to internet at home. In low-income countries, this is as low as 6%. So even if you have schools with internet, and even if you have the necessary software and technology, and you have a device such as a smartphone or a computer, which allows you to work remotely, that's not possible if you don't have connectivity, if you don't know how to use these tools, and so forth. And this disparity, this inequality is going to stick with us unless we're able to address this. And we know that the longer a child is kept out of school, the harder it is for that child to actually start again, to go back to school. And there is a danger that literally hundreds of millions of children across the world will lag behind many years or even permanently because of this. We also believe that this is a challenge that cannot be solved by, for instance, schools on their own, by parents on their own, or by government or technology companies on their own. This is something that needs to be solved by everybody putting together and cooperating. So that actually concludes the trends for 2021 that we have identified. As all of you, I'm sure, are very, very much aware that there are other things that we could have talked about, such as 5G, that we have not included this year, and that is because we wanted to focus on really consequences of the pandemic and the rapid digitization of society. So, thank you very much for your attention.
trends. Now to share how these trends translate for Pakistan and how we are contributing to these advancements, I would like to call on stage Mr. Kuramashwar, Chief Operating Officer, Telenor, Pakistan.
Yes, with social distancing, I can take this off safely. Thank you. Thank you very much. Very briefly, I'd just like to create of the local initiatives that we are doing here in Pakistan, which link us back to these technology trends that Bjørn talked about. Three areas which are figuring out. So first of all, from our own network point of view, our contribution towards the environment and also towards the renewable energy. So Telenor Pakistan has had a very, very aggressive program in reducing our carbon footprint, in reducing our reliance on diesel and electricity generation, which relies on these dirty sources. So over the past 5 years, we've been able to reduce our diesel consumption from a high of around 40 million liters 5 years ago to now almost down to 16 million liters. So that's a substantial increase, and that has been built on using advanced technologies in the battery area. So most of our cell sites are now being deployed with the lithium-ion batteries that you see, the same technology that is being used for the Tesla and other electrical vehicles. Similarly, our reliance on the solar energy is increasing a lot. This year, we will end 15% of our towers, that is around 1,300 sites, will be using solar energy to power their operations. So this is the highest reliance on solar energy from any of the mobile operators in Pakistan. So that's the first link to what was talked about. The second area where we are contributing and we are trying to participate and develop in the developing trends is the M-Agri, or the mobile agriculture platforms. The perception around the agriculture community, unfortunately, is that it is not so aggressive in adopting the latest technology trends that are out there. But you would be surprised that Telenor Pakistan's experience when we go out and offer such services is on the contrary. In fact, our M-Agri platform, which we call Khushal Zamindar, which is a platform which provides digital services, access to information, and also some of the IVR-based services. We have 7 million farmers who actually subscribe to those services and are also paying for those services. So there they are able to get access to the latest weather information, they are able to get access to some of the diseases of the plants, the crops, and the pesticides related information. So the adoption is quite good. It's something that we as an industry need to tap into and increase the adoption, because that's the direction we go. Second example from the agriculture area, and again, in partnership with one of the biggest, another private sector operator, Telenor Pakistan is providing an end-to-end solution for the milk collection across the country. So we provide a solution which is integrated with the Easy Pesa and some of the M2M solutions, where one of the largest dairy products companies in Pakistan is using Telenor Pakistan. It's not just the network, but the platform itself for using for doing the daily milk collection all across the country. And this is very heavily deployed in the rural areas of Punjab and some parts of Sindh. So the third example that I would give from this developing trend, of course, is this M-education. So Bjørn talked about how important it is. We realize that the COVID pandemic has certainly enhanced that realization and the need for doing something. So out of our accelerator program, which is branded as Velocity, there are quite a few startups which are now coming out. We don't have the scale yet, so it's been an experiment in supporting those startups, but there are companies which are local Pakistani companies which have started providing platforms and other education materials through their apps, through their digital environment, and we are helping them achieve scale by giving them access to the 45, 47 million customers that we have and the children amongst them. So this was a very brief link up from what we are doing locally in Pakistan and how these are contributing back to the global trends. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kuram. Now I would like to call on stage Member Telecom MOIT, Mr. Umar Malik, to share a few words. Sir, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and it's been a privilege to be over here from MOIT. Under the guidance of Minister for IT and Telecom, Mr. Aminul Haq, and the Secretary IT, Mr. Shoaib Ibn Siddiqui, Ministry of IT and Telecom in the last couple of 2 years, I'll say, has opted for multiple new ways and dimensions. We started with the spectrum rolling policy. That is the milestone for the 5th generation mobile technology launch, followed by the incoming right of way. Also, we are working on certain emerging technologies that are going to come in the national broadband policy as well very shortly. Talking about the emerging technologies in Pakistan, like our prime focus is toward fiberization in the country, apart from the 5G deployment, keeping in view the 3D matrix of industry, consumer, and the government interest. A very holistic and detailed research has been conducted to address the need of emerging technologies. The focus is 2021-2022 towards the final and conclusive formulation of drafts related to AI-based IoT autonomous networks for the telecom network. Also, we are considering the open RAN technology and the open source technologies for technology sector and the telecom sector specifically. That will open a door for further investment as well as the utilization of technology in Pakistan. These steps, apart from what we are focusing is cybersecurity, will enhance the secure and the resilient communication all over Pakistan. So I'll leave most of the stuff to our minister to speak on, as today we are going to launch for open consultation the first national broadband policy of Pakistan, in addition to the first national cybersecurity policy for open consultation to the industry. So thanks a lot, and I'll pass on to our colleagues. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Now it is my pleasure to invite our chief guest, Honorable Minister for IT and Telecommunications, Syed Aminul Haq, to share his thoughts. Sir, please join us on the stage.
Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Mr. Sandberg, Irfan Kaleem, Umar, Kamal, Khurram, नया टेल बगैर वाच के तो हमारी कोई मीटिंग इनकम्प्लीट रहती है. गुड आफ्टरनून और अस्सलाम वालेकुम. ट्रैक ट्रेंड 2021 टेलीनॉर. मैं समझता हूं कि जिस अंडर दी डायनेमिक लीडरशिप ऑफ इरफान जिस तेजी से तरक्की कर रहा है, मैं समझता हूं कि अगर इसी रफ्तार के साथ चलता रहेगा यकीनन नंबर 1 पोजीशन. जब मैं बिल्डिंग में दाखिल और अभी मैंने इरफान से डिस्कशन की तो पता लगा कि इस बिल्डिंग का नाम 345 है। पता नहीं मीडिया इसको नेगेटिव ना ले ले। पूरे पाकिस्तान में सिर्फ एक पॉलिटिकल ऑफिस ऐसा था जो गालिबन 90 कहलाता था और गालिबन उसके बाद दूसरा ऑफिस ऐसा है जो 345 कहलाता है। मैंने पूछा कि ये नाम कैसे आया, बहुत ही जैसे कि सादा दिली के साथ इरफान ने कहा कि डिस्कस विद आवर एम्प्लॉइज और वहाँ से ये चीज़ जनरेट हुई। यकीनन मैं समझता हूँ कि तरक्की के मनाजिल हैं और तरक्की के मनाजिल में नई चीज़ें, मतलब कामयाबी कब होती है? कामयाबी उसी वक्त नसीब होती है जो हमने सीखा है कि आपको रवायत शिकन बनना पड़ेगा। जब आप रिवायत शिकन बनते हैं तो कामयाबी आपकी मनाजिल तय करती है। तो दैट्स अ गुड थिंग, मैं समझता हूँ कि बहुत अच्छी बात है। अभी मिस्टर सैंडबर्ग साहब ने बड़ी खूबसूरत बात की, 6 मुख्तलिफ टॉपिक पे डिस्कशन किया और मेरा ख्याल है कि लोनलीनेस की बात की। इट्स वेरी कॉमन इन यूरोप एंड नॉर्थ अमेरिका, और उसके हवाले से एंटी लोनलीनेस टैक्स इमर्जिंग के हवाले से क्या क्या चीज़ें की जा रही है। क्लाइमेट चेंज की बात की, पासवर्ड पैनिक, ये मेरा ख्याल है बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ है। छोटी छोटी पासवर्ड अगर डालते हैं तो मुश्किलात में इजाफा हो जाता है, क्रैक हो जाता है। और अगर आज के दिन तक भी देखते हैं तो मैं समझता हूँ कि पाकिस्तान में रोजाना की बुनियाद पर 9 लाख हैकर्स मुख्तलिफ वेबसाइट पर हैक करने की कोशिश करते हैं, लेकिन अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ IT अलॉन्ग विद NTC एंड मुख्तलिफ हलकों के साथ मिलकर इन तमाम हैकर्स को नाकाम बनाती है। तो रेस्ट अश्योर कि आपकी मिनिस्ट्री मौजूद है, वो जागती है तो आप सुकून से सोते हैं। तो इंशाअल्लाह ताला वी आर वर्किंग ऑन इट, हम बिल्कुल इस पे काम कर रहे हैं। इसी तरीके से एजुकेशन गैप की बारे में बात की गई। बड़े मतलब अगर हम पूरे सिस्टम को देखते हैं 1947 से लेकर आज तक, बड़ा अफसोस भी होता है। पॉलिटिकल वर्कर हमारी हमेशा ख्वाहिश रहती है कि इस सिस्टम को गैप को कम किया जाए। आज अगर हम देखते हैं तो मुल्क का गालिबन 3.1% GDP का एजुकेशन का खर्च हो रहा है, जो कि इंतहाई कम है। अगर हम अपने बांग्लादेश को देखते हैं, इंडिया को देखते हैं, आजकल तो हमारा कंपटीशन, कल तक हम फकर से किसी और से कंपटीशन करते थे, लेकिन अब मजबूरी में हमें इनके साथ कंपटीशन करना पड़ता है। तो अगर वहाँ पे देखते हैं तो वो GDP का मेरा ख्याल है कि 8% के 10% के 11% के 12% खर्च है, लेकिन हमारे यहाँ 3.1% GDP का एजुकेशन का खर्च होता है। हमारी क्या ख्वाहिश है, मतलब एज ए पोलिटिकल पार्टी तो हमारी ख्वाहिश ये है कि हर सूरत में GDP का 10% एजुकेशन पर खर्च किया जाए, तभी हम इस गैप को, एजुकेशन गैप को कम करने की पोजीशन में आ सकेंगे। तो यस, हमारी ख्वाहिश भी है कि इसको गैप को कम से कम किया जाए। अभी जब मैं यहाँ बैठा हुआ था तो माय यंग एंड डायनेमिक मेंबर टेलीकॉम ने मुझे बताया, सब लोग टेलीकॉम से रिलेटेड हैं और तमाम चीज़ों के हवाले से मुझे याद है कि शुरू में बड़ी लड़ाइयाँ हमारी हुई हैं कि किस तरह सिस्टम को बेहतर किया जाए। तो 2 अच्छी सी गुड न्यूज़ उसके बाद और डिस्कशन करते हैं कि नेशनल ब्रॉडबैंड पॉलिसी 2021 अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह अब से कुछ देर पहले मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ IT के वेबसाइट पे डाल दी गई है। क्यों? क्योंकि हमारी ख्वाहिश है कि तमाम स्टेक होल्डर उसको देखें, हमारे साथ कोऑर्डिनेट करें, और जो हमारी पॉलिसी क्या है एज ए पॉलिटिकल वर्कर अगेन, कि आपकी सोच के साथ आगे बढ़ना, आपकी इनपुट को शामिल करना। हमारी कामयाबी उसी वक्त होगी जब आपकी सोच हमारे साथ शामिल होगी। और आपकी हमने हमेशा कोशिश की कि आपकी जो भी सजेशन आती है हम उसको रिकमेंडेशन में तब्दील करते हैं और उस रिकमेंडेशन को तब्दील करके उस पर कोशिश करते हैं इम्प्लीमेंट कर रहे हैं। इसके साथ साथ दूसरी भी गुड न्यूज़ कि नेशनल साइबर पॉलिसी, जो मैं समझता हूँ कि बड़ी डिमांड चली आ रही थी कई सालों से, वो भी अब से चंद मिनट पहले हमने मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ IT पे अपलोड कर दी है। लेकिन ये मैं समझता हूँ कि इट्स अ गुड न्यूज़ जो हमारी ख्वाहिश थी कि आपके साथ करें। और मैं समझता हूँ कि टेलीनॉर कुछ डिस्कशन मेरी अभी बैठकर हुई है और कुछ बातें मेरे कान में सीओ साहब ने फरमाई है, हम उस पर पूरी कोशिश करूंगा कि उस पर अमल हो इंशाअल्लाह ताला। और इसी वजह कर मेरे ध्यान में है कि आप नंबर 1 पोजीशन पे जा सकते हैं इंशाअल्लाह ताला, ये चीज़ें बिल्कुल होंगी। इसी तरीके से एक बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट बात कि राइट ऑफ वे, जो कि मिड 90s से मेरा ख्याल इट वाज अ डार्क हॉर्स, आप लोगों के यकीनन मेरा ख्याल आप लोगों के फीडबैक के बाद मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ आईटी ने इसे कैबिनेट से अप्रूव करा चुकी है। अब बहुत जल्द इसके नोटिफाई भी हो जाएगा। तो ये तमाम चीज़ें, इसमें जो तकालीफ हुई, आपको पता है इसमें मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ रेलवे इन्वॉल्व थी, इसमें सबसे बढ़कर मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ डिफेंस इन्वॉल्व थी, मेट्रोपॉलिटन, म्यूनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन, यूनियन काउंसिल, DHA और सबसे बढ़कर कैंटनमेंट बोर्ड, कैंट से मुराद, इन तमाम लोग इन्वॉल्वमेंट, इसको बड़े मुश्किल से एक तवील जद्दोजहद के बाद इसको पास कराने में मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ आईटी कामयाबी है। तो मैं समझता हूँ ये बड़ा लैंडमार्क है टेलीकॉम के सेक्टर में। हमेशा शुरू दिन से मेरा ख्याल है कि डिमांड हमेशा रही है कि एडिशनल स्पेक्ट्रम के हवाले से, ताकि कनेक्टिविटी बेहतर हो। मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ आईटी अगेन आप लोगों के ताउन से आपस में बैठिए, और मैं समझता हूं कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ पाकिस्तान, वी नीड टू बी थैंकफुल टू द प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ पाकिस्तान कि वो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ आईटी की तमाम बातों को बड़े गौर से सुनते हैं और जो जेन्युइन मसाइल होते हैं उस मसाइल को हल करने की कोशिश भी करते हैं। तो इस पे एक ऑलरेडी आपके लिम में है कि कमेटी बनी हुई है एडिशनल स्पेक्ट्रम के हवाले से, इस पर काम जारी है, और न सिर्फ काम जारी है बल्कि ऑलरेडी इंटरनेशनल कंसल्टेंट को हायर भी कर दिया गया है। और मेरा ख्याल है कि इसी महीने के आखिर तक दोबारा उसकी मीटिंग होगी और देखेंगे बेस लाइन क्या बनते हैं और उसके बाद फिर इसको आगे बढ़ाया जाएगा। तो ये एडिशनल स्पेक्ट्रम के हवाले से भी हमारा काम जारी है। वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट इशू टैक्सेशन। मैं समझता हूँ कि हर आदमी जो मुझे मिलता है इसी बारे में डिस्कशन करता है, बातें करता है कि किस तरीके से टैक्सेशन के निज़ाम को या मिनिमाइज किया जाए। बिल्कुल हम आपकी आवाज़ से आवाज़ में लाती है मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ आईटी, और हमारी ख्वाहिश कहती है कि यस इसको कम किया जाए। लेकिन आपको ये भी ध्यान में रखना है कि एक तरफ FBR भी मौजूद है, स्टेट बैंक ऑफ पाकिस्तान भी मौजूद है। हमारी रिकमेंडेशन ऑलरेडी ECC में चली गई, ECC ने इसको इन प्रिंसिपल एग्री भी कर लिए, बट एक सब कमेटी बनाई गई है जो सब कमेटी इस पे काम कर रही है इंशाअल्लाह ताला। उस सब कमेटी से भी बहुत जल्द इंशाअल्लाह ताला अप्रूवल लेने के बाद कैबिनेट, और कैबिनेट से इसकी अप्रूवल ले ली जाएगी। तो इंशाअल्लाह ताला टैक्सेशन का जो मसला है वो भी हल कर लिया जाएगा। 5G मेरा हाल जिक्र भी किया मिस्टर सैंडबर्ग साहब ने, और मुझे पता लगा कि एशिया में 2 ममालिक ऐसे हैं जहाँ पे टेलीनॉर 5G सर्व कर रहा है। 5G की कामयाबी उसी वक्त मुमकिन होगी जब हम 4G की पेनिट्रेशन बढ़ाएंगे, और मैं समझता हूं कि साल हर महीने के तो 1.2 से लेकर 1.4 मिलियन 4G पेनिट्रेशन बढ़ाई जा रही है। हमारी क्या ख्वाहिश होगी कि यस 2022 दिसंबर तक 5G को भी पाकिस्तान में लॉन्च कर दिया जाए। इसके ऊपर मैं समझता हूँ कि बल्कि सच्ची बात ये है कि यस्टरडे वी हैड अ मीटिंग विद मेंबर टेलीकॉम और अदर लोग, उनकी तो उन्होंने आप पहले के भी डेट से देना चाहें तो दे सकते हैं, लेकिन मेरी ख्वाहिश होगी कि तमाम स्टेक होल्डर को शामिल किया जाए, उनके मशवरों से आगे बढ़ा जाए। तो इंशाअल्लाह ताला हमारी ख्वाहिश है कि पाकिस्तान में भी 2022 दिसंबर तक 5G को लॉन्च कर दिया जाए। चूंकि मीडिया मौजूद है, मुझे अंदाजा है कि पैंडेमिक 2, अब तो पैंडेमिक 2 चल रहा है क्योंकि देयर वाज अ गैप एंड देन इस हवाले से कनेक्टिविटी की बहुत ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम थी, और अर्बन एरियाज मैं समझता कराची, लाहौर, इस्लामाबाद, पेशावर, कोयटा, फैसलाबाद, सियालकोट, दे वर डूइंग वेरी वेल, बट रूरल एरियाज मुजफ्फरगढ़, राजनपुर, डेरा बुक्टी, नसीराबाद, खैरपुर, फाटा, यहाँ पे मसाइल अपनी जगह पर मौजूद थे और किसी हद तक हैं भी। बिल्कुल हमने क्या कोशिश की कि कनेक्टिविटी को बेहतर किया जाए। आज से 1 साल पहले तक क्या हो रहा था कि USF हर 45 दिन के बाद एक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट साइन करती थी और अंडर सर्विसेज को देती थी। व्हाट द मिनिस्टर ऑफ आईटी डिड इट कि हमने मेक श्योर किया कि वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट 45 दिन के बजाय 30 दिन और 30 दिन के बजाय अब हमने कोशिश की कि 15 दिन पर हर सूरत में कॉन्ट्रैक्ट असाइन किया जाए, ताकि हमारे दही इलाके के नौजवान तालिब इल्मों उनको भी आसानियां पैदा हों। आपसे देखा कि आज से 4 दिन पहले गालिबन झेलम चकवाल के हवाले से हमने 25 करोड़ की लागत से एक साइन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट साइन किया है। इसी महीने गालिबन 3 तारीख को हमने कराची में लॉन्च किया था, वो तकरीबन 3.1 बिलियन का था। 3.1 बिलियन। अगले हफ्ते इंशाल्लाह ताला आप देखेंगे कि वी आर मूविंग टुवर्ड केपी के, वहां पर भी हमने अरबों रुपए के कॉन्ट्रैक्ट साइन करने जा रहे हैं। तो हमारी क्या ख्वाहिश है कि पाकिस्तान के तमाम इलाकों को जो अनसर्व अंडर सर्व एरिया हैं, दही इलाके हैं, उनमें भी कनेक्टिविटी को बेहतर से बेहतर किया। बट डेफिनेटली इट विल टेक टाइम। हम उस रफ्तार को दोगुना और तिगने की तादाद में आगे बढ़ने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं जो माजी में होता रहा है। यकीनन कनेक्टिविटी के हवाले से भी हमारी ख्वाहिश होगी कि तमाम चीज़ों को बेहतर से बेहतर किया जाए। आज कोई सियासी गुफ्तगू नहीं करूंगा, सिर्फ इस उम्मीद के साथ अपनी बात खत्म करूंगा कि जो बातें की गई हैं, जो 6 डिफरेंट पॉइंट बताई गई है, मैं समझता हूं कि रिसर्च के साथ इसमें किसी जगह पर भी अगर मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ आईटी की हेल्प की जरूरत है तो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ आईटी इज रेडी टू हेल्प यू आउट। इंशाल्लाह ताला मिल के साथ काम करेंगे तो कामयाबी के मनाजिर तय करेंगे। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thank you very much, sir. Now to close today's proceedings, I would like to request CEO Telenor Pakistan, Mr. Irfan Wahab Khan, to say a few words.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honorable Minister Amir al-Aqsa, Umar Malik, Wahaj, distinguished guests, Bjørn, who's connecting from Norway, colleagues from media, and my colleagues from Telenor, Assalamu alaikum. First of all, let me welcome all our distinguished guests to 345, which we proudly call a campus. It's not an office, it's a campus. And today is a great day because we are really living up to the name, where we have invited all the thought leaders to talk about the global technology trends. And also, we also briefly discuss what does it mean for us in Pakistan. So we're very proud that under your able leadership, we have actually not just realized the potential which technology can bring to take Pakistan forward, but also we have seen some concrete steps, as you mentioned, the recent approval of right-of-way policy, the approach which you have taken to include all the stakeholders in terms of consultations, I think is very well appreciated, not just Telenor, but I'm sure from the entire industry as such. So talking about the trends and the role technology is playing, we are still in the middle of the pandemic. And one thing which has become very evident is the opportunities, because with every crisis, there's a silver lining. There's a set of opportunities, and we have seen that set of opportunity also emerging in Pakistan. I'll just use a couple of more examples just to make the point that how us as Pakistanis are moving forward in that. So before, about a year ago, at a national level, we were having about 170, 180,000 transactions which were digital payment. Today, we have crossed 800,000 of those transactions. So it's a manifold increase towards digitization, towards digital payment. So we're truly moving towards a cashless society. Similarly, if you look at another trend, which is adaptation of, I would say, digital learning, we see more and more opportunities coming in that field globally. I was actually reading that in the technology space, Europe, in EU countries, today there are about 700 jobs which are vacant. These are some of the skill sets which Bjørn also mentioned: AI, robotics, data science, and there are not enough people. And Pakistan is one of the largest producer of the talent. We are the 4th largest freelancing nation. So there's a huge opportunity for our kids. आपने बात की खैरपुर की, आपने बात की डेरा बुक्ती की. आज ये फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि बच्चे कहाँ पर बैठे हुए हैं. वो खैरपुर में हो सकते हैं, वो हैदराबाद में हो सकते हैं, वो फाटा में हो सकते हैं, और they could be serving and competing with kids sitting in New York, London. That's the power of technology which we have seen. And that's the biggest opportunity for us. How we enable our youth by upskilling, by teaching them what is latest and greatest in ICT field, so that they become really productive. Not just they can earn a very precious foreign exchange for the country, but they can uplift the lives of their families. Zaraat, Khuram ne bhi zikr kiya, Khushal Zamindar ka. That's one flagship program which hum sab bahut proud hain. 70 लाख से ज़्यादा सर फैमिलीज़ हमारी जो खुशहाल ज़िम्मेदार की सर्विस है, जो इंफॉर्मेशन सर्विसेज है, जिससे वो मार्केट की मंडी की प्राइसेस पता चलती हैं, वेदर की के बारे में पता चलता है. इंडिपेंडेंट रिसर्च साबित करती है कि 70 लाख फैमिलीज़ की इनकम 15% बढ़ चुकी है just by using smartphones. So it's a great example of how can really leverage. So we're living in interesting times. Those technology trends are very obvious. I think we need to really see what the future lies for us, and we need to really position ourselves to make sure that as a country we are ready to avail those opportunities. आज आपने भी जिस बात का जिक्र किया, I think Bjørn also mentioned, mind the educational gap. That's a real challenge for us. पाकिस्तान में इस वक्त तकरीबन 40 लाख के करीब बच्चे जो कि स्कूल में जाते हैं, मेजॉरिटी जो है उनकी because of online and the facilities जो उनको मुयस्सर नहीं है. और उसमें सबसे बड़ा जो गैप है वो स्मार्टफोन या टैबलेट्स का ना होना, उसकी पेनिट्रेशन आज भी कम है. बिकॉज 2/3 के करीब पाकिस्तानीज आज भी बेसिक फीचर फ़ोन यूज़ कर रहे हैं, स्मार्टफोन नहीं कर रहे हैं, और उसकी कई वजूहत है जिसमें टैक्सेशन, जिस आपने भी जिक्र किया, एक वजह. सो आई थिंक बाय जस्ट लुकिंग एट दोज रोड ब्लॉक्स we can actually unleash a lot of opportunities for everyone. But, you know, again, just to close, I would like to actually thank all of you. आप सब ने अपनी मसरूफियात से आज टाइम निकाला, इस ओकेजन पे हम सब इकट्ठे हुए, और सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट मेरे ख्याल में हमारे लिए है कि आज हम मिल के ये अहद करें कि what are we learning from those trends? Are we able to see the future which is lying? And if we are able to see that today, I have no doubts if we all come together, because this opportunity is about building the ecosystem. No single company, private sector ke andar, public sector ke andar, or ministry can do it alone. We all need to join hands together to create that ecosystem, that opportunity, ताकि हम सब एक दिन देखें कि हमने मिलके जो डिजिटल और नॉलेज इकोनॉमी की अपॉर्चुनिटी थी, इससे कैसे फायदा उठाया, और how we able to actually lift each and every Pakistani to become a valuable contributor towards a global knowledge economy. बहुत शुक्रिया जी, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And this brings Tech Trends 2021 to a close while opening multiple new possibilities. May I request the speakers to please proceed at the back towards the media wall for a quick photo. The media is also requested to join in for a media talk while I invite the rest of the guests to please proceed towards lunch. Thank you very much, and Khuda Hafiz.